Sergeant 3, it's still behind you. Copy.
Dispatch, it's still behind us. The dashcam timestamp glowed in the corner of the frame, 2:13:27, white digits floating over a windshield full of night. Streetlights were spaced far apart out here, long gaps of darkness between pools of sodium glow. The patrol cruiser's headlights cut a narrow tunnel down the two-lane highway, and beyond that tunnel, the world disappeared into trees and winter fog. Officer Avery Callahan kept both hands on the steering wheel, knuckles pale. Officer J. Kim sat in the passenger seat, body turned slightly, staring over his shoulder through the rear glass. Behind them, a pair of headlights held steady, not closing, not falling back, just there. A dark sedan, perfectly centered in the lane, maintaining the same distance as if it was tethered. Callahan pressed the radio button again. Unit 3 to dispatch. We've got a vehicle shadowing us. No signals. Matching every turn. Dispatch answered fast, the way they do when your tone changes. Copy, Unit 3. You're on Route 12 northbound. Confirm description. Kim leaned forward, eyes narrowed. Black sedan, he said. Maybe mid-size, like a, I don't know, something common. No distinguishing marks. Callahan swallowed. And dispatch, he added, voice lower. We can't see a driver. A beat of radio silence. Then, say again? Kim's gaze stayed locked on the trailing car. The driver's seat looks empty, he said, more certain now. No silhouette, no head movement, nothing. Callahan felt the temperature in the cruiser drop, even with the heat blasting, because there were only two possibilities, and both were bad. Either someone was in that car and they couldn't see them, meaning they were blind to a threat, or there really was no one in it. And if that second option was true, then whatever happened next wasn't going to be explained away in a report. It would be replayed, zoomed, analyzed, and if a single decision went sideways, it would be the kind of clip that ended careers, sparked lawsuits, and lit up national headlines by sunrise. The sedan stayed behind them, a calm set of headlights, following, like it had somewhere to be, like it had chosen them. 2 hours earlier, the night had been ordinary. Ordinary for Greybridge County, anyway. It was late February, the kind of cold that didn't come with snow, just damp air that seeped into fabric and made your bones feel hollow. The shift had started with paperwork, then a broken tail light, then a domestic call that turned out to be a couple arguing over a phone charger. Callahan and Kim had been partners for 8 months, long enough to read each other's moods, short enough that there were still small surprises, like the fact that Kim whistled under his breath when he was thinking, or that Callahan always counted exits on the highway, even when he wasn't driving. At 12:06 a.m. they'd pulled into the station lot to refill on coffee and reset their gear. It was one of those nights where your body was tired, but your mind couldn't slow down. Kim had come back out with 2 cups. You sure you want to keep doing the cheap stuff? He asked, handing one over. This tastes like it was filtered through a boot. Callahan took it anyway. Boot coffee builds character, he said. Kim smiled, then his eyes drifted toward the road. You ever get that feeling, he said, like the night's too quiet? Callahan snorted. That's how you end up manifesting nonsense, he replied. Kim raised his cup. Cheers to nonsense, he said. They didn't know then that 2 hours later they'd be in a moving bubble of light with an empty car behind them, and the quiet would feel like a threat. The first sign came at 1:47 a.m. They'd been driving south on Route 12, finishing a quick patrol loop through the industrial district. Warehouses closed, loading docks, chain-link fences with faded warning signs. As they approached the long bend near the old quarry road, Kim tapped the dash. "You see that?" he asked. Callahan glanced up. A black sedan was merging onto Route 12 behind them from a dark access road. Not unusual, except it merged like it knew the exact gap to take. No hesitation, no correction. It slid in, centered and smooth, and held the lane. Callahan checked his mirror, then checked again. "Probably someone headed home," he said. Kim didn't answer. He was watching the distance. The sedan stayed exactly 3 car lengths back. Not 2, not 4, 3. After the next curve, Callahan signaled and turned onto a side road, the kind of road you take when you want to loop back without announcing it. The sedan turned too. Kim's eyes narrowed. Callahan tried another, right onto a short connector road, then left, then a U-turn in a safe wide shoulder where they'd done U-turns 100 times. The sedan mirrored every move. "Okay," Callahan said, voice changing. "That's not coincidence." Kim leaned forward. "Plate?" he asked. Callahan slowed slightly to let the sedan get closer. Its headlights were bright, whiter than halogen, clean, modern. But the car itself was hard to read. Dark paint, tinted windshield. Kim squinted. "I can't catch it," he said. "Tint's too heavy." Callahan felt something tighten in his gut. "Dispatch," he said into the radio. "Unit 3, run a plate when you can. Black sedan behind us. We're on Laurel Cutoff heading north. I can't see the plate yet." "Copy," dispatch replied. "Advise when you have the plate number." Kim shifted, trying to angle his view. The sedan held distance like a discipline. Callahan flipped the rear spotlight, just a quick pulse, the kind of thing that makes a driver flinch and gives you a look at the face behind the wheel. The spotlight washed over the Arfausilhamtois, Sedan's windshield, and there was no flinch, no raised hand, no face, no movement, just a dark rectangle of glass, and a steering wheel that seemed to sit there, patient. Kim's voice went quiet. "Avery," he said. Callahan kept his eyes on the road. "What?" Kim swallowed. "I think the driver's seat is empty." Callahan felt his heart stutter, then overcorrect. "That's impossible," he said. Kim didn't look away. "I'm telling you," he replied. "I can see the headrest. I can see the wheel. There's no head, no shoulders, nothing." Callahan's mouth went dry. He tried the spotlight again. The sedan didn't react. It stayed exactly 3 car lengths behind, unfazed by the sudden glare. And that was the moment the night tipped into something else. When Callahan told dispatch they couldn't see a driver, the dispatcher didn't laugh. She didn't ask if they were messing with her. She did what dispatchers do when something doesn't fit in the normal boxes. She started building a box around it. "Unit 3, she said, voice measured. "Confirm you are not actively engaged in a pursuit." Callahan's eyes stayed forward. "Negative," he said. "We're being followed." "Copy. Do you want a second unit?" Kim looked at Callahan. Callahan hesitated. Calling backup meant escalation. It meant explaining. It meant more radios, more cruisers, more lights. And if this was a prank, or a misunderstanding, or some driver low in their seat, they'd look ridiculous. But if it wasn't, Callahan pressed the mic. "Send a unit to intercept," he said, "and notify Sergeant Weller." "Copy," dispatch answered. "Unit 7 is in the area. Sergeant Weller notified." Callahan's pulse thumped in his ears. Kim kept watching. "Distance is the same," he murmured. The sedan's headlights glowed in the mirror. Steady, watching, or being watched. Callahan made a decision. "Let's pull into somewhere lit," he said. Kim nodded. There was a 24-hour gas station up ahead. Bright canopy, cameras everywhere, plenty of space. Callahan signaled early and slowed. The sedan slowed with him. He turned into the station. The sedan turned too. It didn't drift. It didn't hesitate. It didn't swing wide. It tracked the turn, as if the steering wheel was guided by a ruler. Callahan pulled to a stop under the canopy. He didn't put the cruiser in park. He left it in drive, foot on brake, ready. The sedan rolled in behind them and stopped, perfectly centered, perfectly still. No horn, no window lowering, no door opening. Just a car sitting behind a police cruiser at 2 in the morning. Kim leaned to the side, trying to see through the windshield. He found nothing. "Still empty," he whispered. Callahan's hands tightened. "What if it's tint?" he said. Kim shook his head. "Tint doesn't erase a human," he replied. Callahan swallowed. "Okay," he said, forcing calm. "We're going to treat it like there is someone in there." Kim nodded. Callahan flipped on the rear-facing spotlight again, holding it this time. The sedan's interior lit up, and for a second, their brains tried to make sense of what they were seeing. Front seat, empty. Passenger seat, empty. No headrest silhouette, no hands on the wheel, no movement. Just the dashboard, dark, with faint instrument lights, and the steering wheel, centered, waiting. Kim let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "Jesus," he said. Callahan's voice went hard. "Dispatch," he said. "We are stopped at the Laurel Mart gas station. The vehicle is behind us. We can confirm no visible driver. Request immediate backup." The dispatcher's response was immediate. "Copy. Unit 7 is 2 minutes out. Sergeant Weller is en route. Stay in your vehicle." Callahan didn't answer right away, because staying in the vehicle meant letting the unknown control the next move. And Callahan hated that. He'd grown up with a father who believed control was safety. His father used to say it the way you say a prayer, control is safety. Then his father died in a winter pileup when another driver lost control. Control, Callahan had learned, was a story people told themselves, and tonight the story was falling apart. Callahan and Kim stepped out together, staying tight to the cruiser. Their boots hit wet concrete. The gas station lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere inside, a microwave beeped. The night smelled like spilled gasoline and stale hot dogs. Callahan kept his hand close to his holster without touching it. Kim angled his body to keep the sedan in his peripheral view. They approached from the rear quarter, using the cruiser as cover. The sedan sat there, engine idling so quietly it was almost polite. No exhaust plume visible, no interior dome light, no movement. Callahan raised his voice, the way training taught him. "Driver, put your hands where I can see them." Nothing. Kim shifted to the side and shone his flashlight through the rear window. The back seat was empty. The trunk line was clean. No shadowed figure curled low. No sudden flinch. Callahan took 2 steps closer and aimed his flashlight at the windshield. The glass reflected the canopy lights back at him. He could see the dashboard. He could see the steering wheel. He could see the headrests. And he could see emptiness. The driver's seat was empty. And it didn't feel like a trick. It felt like a fact. Callahan's voice came out quieter. "Jay," he said, "tell me you see something I don't." Kim swallowed. "I don't," he replied. A quiet, uneasy moment. Then the sedan's brake lights flickered. Once, twice, like it was tapping its foot. Callahan froze. Kim took a half step back. The sedan's steering wheel turned, slightly to the right, just a few degrees, then back, a correction, a test, or a message. Callahan felt cold creep up his arms. "You seeing that?" he whispered. Kim's voice was tight. "Yeah," he said. The sedan sat again. Still, quiet, as if it had done what it needed to do. Then, without warning, it rolled forward. Not fast, not reckless. It eased forward like a cautious driver. It turned its wheel and began to circle out of the gas station lot. Callahan's brain tried to catch up. "Hey!" he shouted. The sedan didn't react. It exited the lot and re-entered the roadway. And then it did the one thing that made Callahan's stomach drop. It pulled in behind the cruiser again, 3 car lengths back, exactly, like it was resuming a program. Kim stared at Callahan. "What do we do?" he asked. Callahan's answer came from instinct. "We don't let it disappear," he said. They got back into the cruiser, and the dashcam kept recording. They drove, not in a pursuit, not in a chase, in something stranger, a controlled movement through the county, with an empty car trailing behind like a shadow with headlights. Callahan kept his speed at exactly 45. The sedan matched. He accelerated to 55. It matched. He eased down to 35. It eased too. He tapped his brakes lightly. The sedan braked in perfect sync. Kim watched the mirror like it was a portal. "At this point," he murmured, "it's not following us. It's attached." Callahan didn't answer. He was thinking about tactics, about procedure, about every training module that never covered this, because there's no section in the handbook for vehicle with no driver persists in tailing patrol unit. Dispatch came through. "Unit 3, Unit 7 is behind your suspect vehicle, approximately 1 mile out." Callahan's relief was immediate. "Copy," he said. "Have them keep distance." Kim turned and looked out the rear side window. Far back, a second set of flashing lights appeared. A cruiser, closing. Callahan exhaled. They weren't alone anymore, but the sedan didn't react to the second unit. No sudden acceleration, no deviation. It stayed behind Callahan's cruiser, ignoring the flashing lights that would normally make any driver tense. Kim's voice was low. "If this is a person messing with us," he said, "they are unbelievably calm." Callahan's mouth tightened. "What if it isn't a person?" he replied. Kim didn't answer, because the implication sat in the cruiser like an extra passenger. Sergeant Weller joined the convoy 5 minutes later. His SUV came up alongside Callahan at a red light near the edge of town, windows down. Weller was older, grey at the temples, the kind of sergeant who'd seen enough to stop being impressed by weirdness. But when Callahan pointed behind them, Weller's expression shifted. "You're telling me that car's empty?" he asked. Kim nodded. "We've lit it up twice," Kim said. "No movement, no silhouette." Weller stared. Then he spoke into his radio. "Dispatch, confirm plate return?" he asked. Dispatch sounded strained. "We're still attempting," she said. "The rear plate is unreadable from cameras. We attempted VIN through state systems based on make and model estimate. No match. No active registration located." Weller's mouth tightened. "Unregistered," he muttered. The light turned green. Callahan moved forward. The sedan moved. Weller pulled his SUV behind the sedan, activating his emergency lights. Normally, that would end the situation. A driver sees lights behind them and pulls over. The sedan didn't, not immediately. It continued behind Callahan, as if the lights meant nothing. Then, slowly, it began to drift toward the shoulder. Not to stop, to position. It moved just enough that its right tires touched the a fog line. Then it straightened. Then it drifted again, like it was testing boundaries. Weller's voice came over the radio. "Unit 3, it's reacting to my lights, but it's not stopping. Maintain course. We're going to guide it to a safe area." Callahan's throat tightened. "Copy," he answered. They headed north toward the decommissioned way station, a wide pull-off on Route 12, fenced and empty now, but still paved and lit by a few surviving flood lamps. A place with space, a place where a mistake wouldn't put a civilian in the crossfire. As they drove, the miles stacked up. 3, 5, 8. The phantom sedan stayed behind them. Every turn, every speed change, like it was reading Callahan's mind. Kim's voice came out tight. "You ever feel like you're being studied?" he asked. Callahan swallowed. He did, not by eyes, by something colder, like a system collecting data. If you've ever watched something that shouldn't be possible happen in real time, something that makes your brain search for a rational hook to hang it on, you know the sensation. It's not pure fear, it's disbelief trying to become fear, and that transition is worse. At mile 10, Weller tried a new tactic. He pulled his SUV alongside the sedan at a safe distance, staying level with its rear quarter panel. He shone his spotlight through the sedan's side window. The interior lit up, empty. Then the sedan's steering wheel turned, not slightly, decisively. It corrected away from Weller's SUV, just enough to maintain space, just enough to avoid contact. A smart correction, a careful one. Kim's voice cracked. "That's defensive driving," he whispered. Callahan's stomach sank, because defensive driving implied intent, not ghost intent, not superstition, intent like code, intent like programming. Weller's voice came over the radio. "It's avoiding my vehicle," he said, "like it sees me." Callahan's grip tightened. "Maybe it does," he replied. Dispatch cut in. "Units, I have an update," she said. "We ran a partial plate through an alternate camera angle. It returned to a vehicle previously reported scrapped. Total loss. Sold at auction." Callahan felt his pulse jump. "Scrapped," he repeated. "Affirmative," dispatch said. "The plate number is associated with a black sedan that should not be active. Record indicates vehicle was totaled 16 months ago." Weller's voice turned sharp. "Dispatch, confirm that's not a data error." "Confirmed," dispatch replied. "Multiple hits." Kim stared into the mirror. "A totaled car," he said slowly. "Following us?" Callahan's voice came out low. "This keeps getting better," he muttered. At 2:13 a.m., after 12 miles of tailing and mirroring and silent headlights, they reached the way station. Callahan signaled and pulled in. The flood lamps overhead were weak but functional, casting a pale, institutional light over the asphalt. Weller positioned his SUV to block the exit. Unit 7 parked off to the side. Callahan pulled forward, leaving open space between his cruiser and the entrance. Then he did something simple. He stopped, he put the cruiser in park, and he waited. The phantom sedan rolled in behind him. It crossed the threshold into the way station lot, and then it stopped, exactly where it had been stopping all night. 3 car lengths back, centered, calm. For a moment, no one moved. Just 3 police vehicles and 1 black sedan under dead floodlights. The distant sound of the highway rolled by. A semi passed somewhere beyond the fence. Wind moved through dried weeds. Kim looked at Callahan. "Okay," he said softly. "Now what?" Callahan didn't answer, because the now was the dangerous part. Approach the car and risk whatever they weren't seeing, or leave it and risk letting it vanish into the dark. Weller approached Callahan's window. His face looked pale in the floodlights. "You got eyes on the cabin?" he asked. Kim nodded. "Still empty," he said. Weller exhaled. "All right," he said. "We do this careful." Weller spoke into his radio. "Everyone, slow approach. No one touches that vehicle until we know what we're dealing with." Callahan and Kim stepped out. They moved with deliberate spacing, forming a loose arc. Weller approached from the driver's side. Kim stayed offset, flashlight steady. Callahan watched the front end, headlights, grille, the tiny reflection of the flood lamps on the hood. The sedan sat there, idling. Then quietly, a sound came from inside. Not a voice, not a cough. A soft electronic chime, like a notification tone. Kim froze. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Callahan nodded. Weller leaned closer, aiming his light through the windshield. The steering wheel was centered. The driver's seat was empty, and on the center console, a small tablet-like screen lit up. White text, clean and minimal. It displayed a single sentence. Safe follow mode active. Below it, smaller text scrolled. Lead vehicle identified. Callahan felt the world tilt. Safe follow mode? Kim repeated. Weller's jaw tightened. That's not a person, he muttered. Callahan's mind raced. Follow mode, lead vehicle. This wasn't a ghost story. This was something built, something designed, and it had selected them as its target, or its guide. Weller stepped back. Dispatch, he said into his radio. We have an autonomous interface visible inside the suspect vehicle. Repeat, possible autonomous test vehicle. Dispatch paused. Then, copy, stand by. As if she had no script for this either. Kim's voice was tight. Why would it follow a police car? He asked. Callahan stared at the empty seat, because somewhere, in whatever logic ran that, Sedan, a police cruiser, wasn't a threat. It was a marker, a leader, a safe path. Callahan felt a cold realization. If that thing decides to move again, he said, it'll move like it has all night, calm, predictable, and unstoppable. Weller nodded slowly. Which means we have to stop it the right way, he replied. Kim swallowed. What's the right way? He asked. Weller didn't answer, because in that moment none of them knew. They didn't touch the car. They didn't try to open the doors. They treated it like a suspicious device with wheels. Weller ordered everyone back. They created distance. They called the county tech response team. And as they waited, the sedan did something else. It shut off, not abruptly, gently. Its headlights dimmed. Its engine sound faded. Then the interior screen changed. Follow session complete. Distance, 12.1 miles. Session log saved. A pause. Then another line. Geofence exited. System safe. Kim stared. Geofence, he whispered. Callahan's mouth went dry. 12 miles, he said. It followed us, until it hit a boundary. Weller's face looked like stone. Meaning it wasn't following us because it wanted to, he said. It was following us because it was allowed to, until it wasn't. Callahan felt anger rise under the fear. Someone had put this on the road. Someone had let it roam, and nobody had warned the people who patrol these highways at 2 a.m. Weller turned his gaze on Callahan. Body cam, he said. Callahan nodded. Kim nodded. Weller's voice was steady. Whatever happens next, he said, that footage protects you. And it was true, because once the rumor got out, driverless car follows police, people would want a villain, they'd want someone to blame, and without cameras, blame sticks to whoever's closest. By sunrise, the story had reached the county offices. By noon, it had reached the state. And by the next morning, the dashcam clip leaked, not the whole thing, just the most haunting section. A steady stretch of highway, a calm patrol cruiser, a black sedan behind it, and the slow zoom on an empty driver's seat. People watched it on their phones in bright kitchens. They watched it at work. They watched it in bed with the lights off, and the comments piled up. Ghost, demon, government, hoax, then the backlash, fake, staged, edit. Callahan and Kim weren't allowed to respond. They were told not to talk to media, not to post, not to argue, just to wait while investigators did their work. And waiting is a special kind of torture when the whole internet is writing your story for you. 4 days later, Detective Mara Sutter from the state's Transportation Safety Unit sat across from Callahan in an interview room. The room smelled like copier toner and hand sanitizer. A single fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Sutter slid a photo across the table. It was the black sedan, close enough to read details, a small cluster of sensors on the roofline, a modified front grille, a panel under the rear bumper. "Do you recognize these modifications?" Sutter asked. Callahan shook his head. No, he said. Sutter nodded. Not surprising, she replied. Most people wouldn't. She leaned forward. That vehicle is not a ghost, she said. It's a prototype. Callahan's chest tightened. Prototype for what? He asked. Sutter's eyes were tired. Convoy driving, she said. Vehicle platooning. Cars following a lead vehicle at consistent distance, designed to reduce human error. Callahan let out a short laugh. Reduce human error, he repeated, by putting an empty car on a public road at night. Sutter didn't flinch. Unauthorized test, she said. That's why I'm here. Kim sat beside Callahan, jaw tight. Who did it? Kim asked. Sutter. Slid another sheet across the table. A company name. A local contractor with a bland logo and a clean website. Orchard Dynamics. Callahan stared at it. Never heard of them, he said. Sutter nodded. They were hired for a pilot program, she said. Limited, closed-course testing. Paperwork says all road testing would be done on private property. Kim's voice was low. But they did it anyway, he said. Sutter's gaze held. They did, she replied. And your cruiser became the lead vehicle because your taillight pattern and speed profile matched the system's lead identifier parameters. Callahan felt a chill. So we didn't get targeted, he said. We got selected. Sutter nodded. That's one way to put it, she said. Callahan leaned back, staring at the ceiling. All that fear, all that tension, and the whole time they were being used as a moving reference point by a machine someone shouldn't have deployed. Kim's voice tightened. But why didn't it stop when Sergeant Weller lit it up? He asked. Sutter exhaled. Because it wasn't trained to interpret emergency signals the way humans do, she said. It was trained to avoid collision and maintain the session. It saw the lights as another variable, not an instruction. Callahan's jaw flexed. So if we'd tried to force it off the road? Sutter interrupted gently. Your instincts were correct, she said. Any aggressive maneuver could have resulted in a collision, and if that happened, you'd be blamed first, because you're the one in the marked car. Callahan stared at her. What about the plate? He asked. Dispatch said it belonged to a scrapped car. Sutter's eyes hardened. That's the part, she said, that turned this from reckless to criminal. Kim's gaze sharpened. Criminal how? He asked. Sutter tapped the table. That vehicle was rebuilt from salvage, she said. Someone used a scrapped identity to hide it from normal systems, which suggests they didn't want oversight. Callahan felt the room tighten. So they weren't just testing, he said. They were hiding. Sutter's expression stayed flat. Yes, she replied. That was the twist. Not supernatural, not impossible. Just human beings doing something dangerous and hoping no one noticed. Except the system did what it was designed to do. It followed, it recorded, it logged the session, and now, because of that log, someone's entire operation was unraveling. 2 weeks later, Callahan found out why the state unit looked so tired. Because Orchard Dynamics wasn't a small rogue shop. It was tied to a larger consortium pushing a fast-track pilot program. Grants, deadlines, pressure, and pressure makes people cut corners. The way station where the Sedan stopped wasn't random either. It marked the edge of the Geofence test corridor, a corridor that existed on paper as non-public controlled environment. But at 2 in the morning, controlled environments look a lot like public roads if you're not asking the right questions. And nobody asked until a Dashcam did. Weller was called in. Dispatch audio was reviewed. The gas station clerk was interviewed. The footage was examined frame by frame. And in the middle of all that, Callahan and Kim sat in the uncomfortable space of being both cops and evidence. One night they were doing routine patrol. The next, their voices were being played back in conference rooms. Their decisions weighed, their movements judged. If you've ever felt your own life turn into a document without your permission, you know how small it makes you feel. Callahan handled it by going quiet. Kim handled it by getting angry, and both of them handled it by asking the same question in different ways. What else is out there that we don't know about? The outcome came fast after the state's report landed. Orchard Dynamics' pilot program was suspended. An injunction followed. The county commissioner held a press conference where he looked like a man trying to hold his smile steady while his world shook. The company's CEO said, "Regrettable," and "miscommunication," and "isolated incident." Then the state released their own statement. Unauthorized deployment, falsified registration, public safety risk, potential criminal charges. The tone changed. The ghost story comments stopped. They were replaced by something colder. How did this happen? Who approved it? How many times? Were there other vehicles? Because once the public learns a boundary has been crossed, they don't want comfort. They want inventory. Callahan wasn't a hero in the press. Not at first. At first, he was just the officer on the video, the man who kept driving while an empty car followed. People mocked that. Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you shoot? The tires? Why didn't you ram it? But those questions came from living rooms, from people who never felt the weight of consequence hanging on a trigger, from people who never imagined what it would feel like to explain to a judge why you used force on a car that turned out to be empty. Sutter's report changed the conversation. It made one thing clear. Callahan and Kim's restraint wasn't fear. It was judgment. They didn't escalate into chaos. They guided the situation into light. They created distance. They documented. And because they did, the truth survived the internet's need for a simpler story. If you were in their seat, with that empty cabin glowing under a spotlight, what would you have done? It's easy to answer from a couch, harder when the road is wet, the night is cold, and a machine is making decisions behind you. A month after the incident, Callahan drove the same stretch of Route 12 on his own time. No lights, no radio. Just his personal truck and the quiet hum of tires. He passed the gas station. He passed the bend near the quarry road. He passed the way station. Everything looked normal. And that was the unsettling part, because normal had become suspicious. He pulled off at a turnout and sat for a while, engine off, listening to the wind. He thought about his father, about how his father used to say control was safety, and he thought about how the empty sedan had followed them with perfect control, while humans were the ones scrambling to interpret what they were seeing. Maybe that was the real nightmare. Not a ghost, not a phantom. Just the realization that the future doesn't announce itself. It rolls up behind you with headlights on, and no one in the seat. In the end, the Dashcam clip didn't become a paranormal legend. It became training material, a cautionary case study. Every recruit in Greybridge County watched it. They watched Callahan's hands stay steady. They watched Kim's head turns back again and again. They watched the 12-mile stretch like a slow-motion pressure test, and they learned something the hard way. The road isn't just where accidents happen, it's where systems meet people. And when those systems are built by humans under pressure, the margin for error doesn't disappear. It moves. Sometimes it moves into the dark behind you. Sometimes it moves into the choices you make when you don't have a rule book. That night, an empty car followed a police cruiser for 12 miles. Not because it was haunted, because someone somewhere decided they could test the future without telling the present. And the present, captured on a dashcam, refused to let that decision stay hidden. Years from now, people will still argue about what they saw in that footage. Some will insist there was a shadow in the driver's seat. Some will insist it was staged. Some will insist it was proof we've crossed a line we can't uncross. But Callahan will remember the simplest truth of it. A pair of headlights, a quiet engine, an empty seat, and the way a machine can follow perfectly, while the humans in front of it are the ones who have to decide what safe actually means. Because the scariest part wasn't the idea of a phantom, it was the idea of a system that could mistake your taillights for guidance and keep following you until the map told it to stop.